So Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Definitions are important. Knowing what a person means when they say the word that they utter is crucial to understanding the message that they are trying to convey. So, for example, it is possible to say that when it comes to synagogue and synagogue attendance, that I grew up in what might be called a very traditional home. We traditionally went to shul only 3 times a year. And we were very, very religious in that practice. See, it all depends upon how you use the word in the context in which you use it. Now, as I started down the path of greater involvement in Jewish life and in ritual and in study, definitions became crucial to me as well. Not having much by way of a traditional Jewish background in terms of knowledge, I was constantly asking people to define the terms that they would use in casual conversation. So, for example, I was asking, when someone first used the term Shomer Shabbat, they asked me, are you Shomer Shabbat? And I said, maybe. What does it mean? But it's not just everyday language that I was constantly asking for definitions. It was also even just technical terminology that became involved in studying traditional Jewish texts like the Talmud. But of all the words that I have ever studied, the one that has gone through, for me, perhaps the most redefinitions and evolution and growth is the word Torah. Now, when I first began walking the path of serious engagement with Jewish texts, I barely knew what Torah really was. And so, as a beginner, I was offered up the most basic and narrowest of definitions. Torah is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, of the Tanakh. But as my learning deepened, I discovered that the word Torah was much more than just that, much more than just those 5 books. That the Torah could be defined not only as those 5 books, but could be broadened to incorporate all the books of the Bible, and beyond that also the oral tradition of the rabbis, as codified in the works of the Talmud and the Midrashic collections, that all of this could also be referred to as Torah. And later on, I read Jewish thinkers and rabbis who claimed that the Torah was even more than just those things, more than just the written works of the Bible, more than just the oral tradition of the rabbis, but that it could include philosophy and science as well. Anything, in fact, that increases and deepens our knowledge of God and of God's world. All of these things could be considered Torah. And now these past 2 years, I've been studying with a teacher of mine from my time at the Jewish Theological Seminary, Rabbi Ira Stone, and with 5 other colleagues. And based on this learning, I have discovered that Torah is even much more than all that I have shared before, much more than all of these previous definitions. For these previous definitions confine Torah. They restrict and narrow to Torah, to a body of texts that give us knowledge about God and God's world. And yet, I have learned, Torah is more than all of that as well. For you see, at its core, Torah contains the searing insight into the most basic human conditions, as articulated in the Genesis itself. Lo tov adam liot levado. It is not good for a person to dwell alone. Because the Torah understood that we need others to exist. That we do not stand as islands apart, but that for us to actually be human beings, we require other human beings to do so. Now, lest we think that this is obvious, let's remember that Western philosophy and political theory begins with the individual. Hence, when conceiving philosophically about a person, philosophers only talk in Western tradition about that one person. And when we talk in our political discourse, we always talk about the individual's rights. But Judaism does not start with the individual, but rather with individuals, and understands that we exist only in relationship. We are, in essence, created by other people. And it is in the interaction with other people, whether we know them well and intimately or barely at all. It is in each and every one of those interactions that we are given our sense of self, our sense of identity, that we are, in fact, created. But then we must ask, what is the proper way to be in relationship with this essential other? In what way should I act towards the one who creates me? And here the Torah's answer is also crystal clear. V'yahavta l're'echa kamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. At root, to do this means to accept that whenever the opportunity arises, my obligation to act and be there to service the other is paramount. It doesn't matter whether I like this person or not. It doesn't matter whether they have treated me well or not. All that matters is that they are the other. They bear the same image of God that I carry, and I am obligated to them. Torah is both this fundamental insight into what makes us and creates us, as well as the concrete response to it that flows from it. Hence, Torah is the embodiment of living out lo tov, it is not good to dwell alone, and v'yahavta l're'echa, and loving your neighbor. Therefore, Torah is more than just knowledge. It's more than just that. It's more than just those scrolls that we have there that I carried around and that strikes within us such a strong response. Torah, seed essence, is an experience, not knowledge, not here, but here. Torah is the experience of seeing and meeting my obligation to the other, to the people around me. To be of service, to care for, tend to, and be there for that other. This is what Torah is. Now, with this new definition of Torah in mind, I think we can now come to a deep appreciation of the events in this week's Torah portion, in particular in chapter 17, as well as understand who we have been as a congregation and also who we must be in the future. In last week's Torah portion, we read how through the evil report of 10 of the 12 spies, that the people lose heart, that they lack faith in God, and that they refuse to go up and take the land that God has promised them. And that in the end, God decrees that this entire generation, all who are above the age of 20, all of them are destined to wander and to die in the wilderness. Now, in the eyes of many, this represented a failure of leadership on Moses' part and lays the groundwork for this week's Torah portion, in which Korach, an assortment of other traditional and tribal bigwigs, and a band of about 250 Levites challenge Moses. Now, I do just want to note that on a weekend in which we're celebrating the fact that I have been here for 18 years, or starting my 18th year, to be reading about a rebellion is a kind of odd experience. Must talk to whoever chose this weekend. Korach and his band come forward and they question why Moses and Aaron have elevated themselves above all the people, since, and this is a correct and accurate claim, all the people are holy. So what makes Moses and Aaron more deserving of being leaders than anybody else, they say? But though a righteous claim, it barely masks, according to rabbinic tradition, that Korach is just using this as a shield to mask his real frustration. And that is that Aaron, whose father was younger than Korach's father, was chosen to be the high priest, whereas Korach and his clan were overlooked. Now, what Korach and others fail to remember is that while it is true that, yes, all the people are holy, and while it is true that if you're following a direct succession based upon the oldest, that Korach's father and then by dint Korach himself should have been the high priest, while all of that is true, it was God who chose Moses to lead. It was God who selected Aaron as the high priest. And in forgetting this, Korach doesn't seem to realize that his proximate challenge to Moses and Aaron is ultimately a challenge to God. After a test of offerings in which Aaron's was accepted and all the others were rejected, God punishes Korach and his merry band with death. This will spark another round of murmuring on the part of the people who bemoan Moses and Aaron's leadership, saying that they're leading them to death, they're killing them off. This nattering on the people's part will evoke another angry response from God, and a plague will burst out among the people. Moses will urge Aaron to grab his censer with incense, as it was believed in ancient times to have a soothing, ameliorative effect not only on people, but on gods as well. And he urged Aaron to run out and stand amongst the people and stop the plague from killing others. And there, according to the Torah, was Aaron, holding the plague, a manifestation of the divine's wrath, no less, holding this plague at bay, standing there between the living on the one hand and the dead on the other. Now, my friends, Aaron had every right to not want to help these people at all. Their rebellion, while aimed against Moses and God, was also a direct target to him. Hence, as the rebellion unfolds, Moses says to the people, "Who is Aaron that you should murmur against him?" And that is why the test revolves around Aaron and Moses' staff, or Aaron, not Moses' staff, which blooms and confirms Aaron as the rightful high priest. And yet, when the need arises, Aaron puts himself between life and death, averts the plague, and saves the Israelites. Why? Why does he do this? I believe the answer can be found in Pirkei Avot in chapter 1, Mishnah 12, where we find Hillel. Hillel, who taught that the sum of the Torah is to not do to others what is hateful to yourself. Hillel, whose student Rabbi Akiva claimed that the central core principle of the Torah was v'yahavta l're'echa kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. This Hillel teaches, be like the disciples of Aaron, ohev shalom v'rodev shalom, ohev et habriot u'mekravan l'Torah, ohev shalom, love peace, v'rodev shalom, and pursue it. Ohev et habriot, love all of creation, u'mekravan l'Torah, and bring them closer to Torah. The first part of this saying, love peace and pursue it, are what we see of Aaron in this week's Torah portion. He does not seek out the conflict. On the contrary, the conflict comes to him, and he is a lightning rod for Korach and his followers. But this is not Aaron's way. This is not his way to be in conflict. It only starts because of what others bring to him. We see this actually to an even greater extent in the incident with the golden calf, where, because of Moses' tarrying, the Israelites, in their anxiety, approach Aaron about building an altar to God and create an idol. And Aaron, being the lover of peace and the avoider of conflict that he is, sees that there is no way to deal with the people, to fight against them, but to let this unfold. And when the need arose and the opportunity presents itself to help others, he runs, literally runs, to curtail God's punishment of the people and bring peace. He is the embodiment of Ohev Shalom and Rodev Shalom. And the second part, love creation and bring them closer to Torah. This is what actually motivates him. This is what brings him along. According to Hillel, Aaron doesn't like creation necessarily. He doesn't enjoy necessarily being in the company of others, but he loves creation and all who inhabit it. And this love enables him to put aside his pain that others caused him by their rebellion and see past the hurt and wounds that, due to their lack of faith in him, mark his very soul. Aaron loves, and love is ultimately about connection and commitment, seeing the other and responding to what they need. It is understanding my obligation to you trumps any feelings for you. It is love that comes from a deep sense of indebtedness to the other for having participated in creating the people that we are. And in the very moment of acting in this way, in that very instance, Aaron brings them closer to Torah because he is the embodiment of Torah. Or to paraphrase from our Christian brethren, he is Torah made flesh. And to the extent that he is Torah by living it, Aaron brings people close by his example, by the way that he lives his life in service to the other, carrying and caring and being there for them. Though perhaps not as widely as quoted as some of Hillel's other famous sayings, like, "If I am not for myself, who will be?" these words have a special place in our tradition. For a core principle of Judaism is shalom, is peace, such that we believe peace is an integral element to who we are. And we even go so far to say that our sacred text, that our Torah, is V'chol netivotecha shalom, a sacred text that is filled with paths, filled with different ways, but all ending up in the same place with the same goal: peace, shalom. But these words not only occupy a special place in Jewish tradition, they also occupy a special place in this congregation. Literally, a special place in this congregation. For as we walk into the main sanctuary this morning and every morning, we pass by a marble pillar with a bronze statue of an open book on top. It was dedicated to Rabbi Aaron M. Wise. And on the left-hand side, it says, "Be like the disciples of Aaron. Ohev shalom v'rodev shalom. Ohev et ha'briot u'mekarvan leTorah." These words are right outside our main sanctuary. And I believe that this tribute to Rabbi Wise is most fitting for bringing people close to Torah, both in its narrowest definition and its most expansive. This is what this congregation has always been about. Over these 75 years, we have created schools and programs to educate our youngest and our oldest and everyone in between. But beyond just teaching Torah as knowledge, our goal over these past 75 years has been to create a place, to create a congregational home where people live the values embodied by Aaron and supported by those who serve and embrace the other. Now, we might not always succeed in fulfilling these words, my friends. And sometimes we might not even succeed as much as we think we should. Okay, all well and good. We are setting for ourselves a high bar. And we are human. So we will inevitably stumble. We will inevitably fall short. But I don't think we should judge ourselves by our falling short, but by our willingness to get up and try again and again and again. As individuals and as a congregation, we will sometimes hit this mark, and we will be Torah made flesh. And sometimes we will miss. But what we can never, ever, ever do is settle for anything less than what one Aaron lived so many thousands of years ago and to which another Aaron dedicated this very congregation. Our task over these next 75 years is to continue to do what we have tried to do for the past 75, to live in such a way that we can be considered Aaron's disciples, that we can love peace, desiring the wholeness and the sense of interconnectedness that comes with it, that we will pursue peace, not waiting, but seizing every chance to be of service to the other, that we will love all of creation, embracing and not fleeing the feeling of indebtedness to everyone for helping create who we are and giving us our sense of ourselves. And for doing all of this, Torah will come alive, and come alive in our lives and in the lives of everyone around us. And in this way, we bring them close to it, and we inspire them in their strivings as we seek to live it out as well. To bring people close to Torah. This is what Judaism has been about for 4,000 years. This is what we have been about for the past 75 years, and to go forward and continue. We will strive to let this vision of Torah, with God's help, be our guide for the next 75 years. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.